Hey everyone, it's Rihanna and welcome back to another video. It has been a while. Anyway, today I'm going to be sharing with you everything I watched in summer of 2018. Of course, these are all new watches and there are lots of them, so let's get cracking. Okay, so the first two I want to talk about are two TV shows. I mentioned these in my 3 TV shows I am currently obsessed with. The first one is Queer Eye. If you haven't watched Queer Eye, what rock have you been living under? It's about these 5 gay guys who travel around Georgia in the USA and they transform people's lives. It's like a makeover show, but it's more than a makeover. It's just wonderful. It's great television and the Fab Five are just fantastic. As I said in that video, I am obsessed with Queer Eye. If you haven't watched it, just do yourself a favour, go watch it. Both seasons are on Netflix. You are welcome. The second TV show was also a TV show I mentioned in that video, and that is Killing Eve. If you haven't got on board with the Killing Eve hype, you definitely need to. This show stars Sandra Oh as a detective who goes after a assassin killer, and the tables sort of turn when the assassin killer kind of becomes obsessed with Eve. Sandra Oh is fantastic in the show. Jodie Comer, who plays the main villain, Villanelle, is fantastic in the show. It's like a spy thriller. It's super intense, but it's also extremely funny. So definitely check out Killing Eve. There's only 8 episodes in season 1 and it's really easy to binge. The first new film I watched in June 2018 was The Adjustment Bureau, which is based off a book by Philip K. Dick. Now, this film is based around a guy whose life keeps changing and has to change when he meets this ballerina. And it's a really cool concept for a film. It stars Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. I just feel like it didn't reach its full potentials for the idea. Next up is Jurassic World: A Fallen Kingdom, which is the second film in the Jurassic World series. I can't say I loved this one. It was very cliched and cheesy. It had some cool concepts, I will give it that. The fact that the dinosaurs are now in mainland America is pretty scary, if I'm honest. I really can't wait to see what they do with Jurassic World 3. I think they can do a lot of things with it. It's just a cheese fest in most cases, but there were some times where I genuinely almost cried. So, you know, you've got it bad when you start crying over dinosaurs. Yeah. My next watch was Hereditary, which if you guys haven't seen Hereditary yet, you seriously need to get on board with this. The hype is so real for Hereditary. It's about this family who lose the grandmother of the family and weird things start happening with the kids in the family. And that is all I want to tell you. You need to go into Hereditary with a clear, focused mind, because at the end of it, you're going to be questioning life itself. It's one of those A24 movies where you're just like, shit, oh my god, this is incredible. Hereditary, fantastically done on all levels. They have stepped up the game, oh my god. Next up is Ocean's 8, which is a spin-off film to the Ocean's 11 trilogy, but this time it's 8 women who are performing a jewelry heist at the Met Gala. This film stars the likes of Sandra Bullock, Cate Blanchett, Sarah Paulson, Awkwafina, Mindy Kaling, Rihanna. There's so many people in this film. Oh my god, just, but this film didn't quite reach its full potential. In a heist film, I feel like a lot of more things could have gone wrong, but I love the cast of this film so much, I'm willing to let that slide. The cast of this film have such great chemistry as the characters. Cate Blanchett and Sandra Bullock work so well together. I'm not a big fan of heist films in general, so, you know, it would take me a lot to win me over. But Ocean's 8 was definitely an enjoyable heist movie. I really enjoyed it. I actually really want to watch it again. Next up was The Incredibles 2, which I've been waiting for such a long time, much like everyone else in the whole entire world. I love the first Incredibles film and I love The Incredibles 2 maybe even more. This one had some super great ideas. I love the villain aspect of it. It felt more grown up, and just seeing Jack have powers was so much freaking fun. I really hope they continue on with the Incredibles trilogy. I know you have like the Cars trilogy, which isn't great, but then you have Toy Story 1, 2 and 3, which are great, so I'm hoping that the Incredibles will be a great trilogy. I freaking loved it. Next up is Book Club, which I don't have too much to say about. I didn't expect to see this film, but it was on and my friend wanted to go, so we went. It tells the story of 4 women who are in a book club and they discover 50 Shades of Grey, and it sort of spices up their sex life, I suppose. It was very witty. I loved Diane Keaton in it, but not a lot to say about it. I feel like women of a certain age will very much enjoy it just because it's more marketed to their that audience, I suppose. Book club was a lot of fun, not especially suited to me, but you know, wasn't a terrible film. And the last movie I got to see in June was Adrift, starring Sam Claflin and Shailene Woodley. It tells the real life story of two sailors that get caught up in a storm and have to fight to survive. Now this film was insanely intense, insanely emotional, and just hit me like a ton of bricks really. I don't know why true life stories about struggles really want to punch me in the face, but they do. I thought Shailene Woodley in this film was incredible. Holy crap, like she holds this film together. Not saying that the film is terrible, because it isn't on any aspect. Like the special effects look amazing, Sam Claflin's great as well, but Shailene Woodley really makes this film stand out. Her acting is incredible. She's just natural and raw and amazing. Let's move on to July, which is actually the shortest list of films in these 3 months. The first one isn't a film, it's a TV show called Good Girls. I believe it might be on Netflix in the US, but it's definitely on Netflix in the UK. This one stars Retta, Christina Hendricks and Mae Whitman as 3 suburban mums who are in a lot of financial struggles. I also talked about this TV show in that TV show video I did. Yeah. So if you've watched that, you'll know. But basically they end up robbing a supermarket and end up getting into some gang stuff. So that's interesting. And while this TV show is incredibly funny, the acting is great, it's very, very intense, and it just has that binge-worthy feel to it where you just want to keep watching just because the 3 main actresses have such great chemistry together, and of course it leaves you on a cliffhanger every single time you watch it. So you just got to keep watching. The first film I watched in July was Tag, which was so much fun. It tells the story of 5 guys who have been friends since childhood, and every year in the month of May they play this huge game of tag where literally they will travel across country to go tag their friend, and it is the last year for one of them playing, and they really want to tag him because he is such a great player, and it was extremely funny. I really like the chemistry between all the actors. It has Jake Johnson in it, Ed Helms, Hannibal Bruges, John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, so many great people in this movie. It's a comedy, so obviously it wasn't anything special, but you know, got a little bit of a tear out of me, you know, got a bit emotional at sometimes. But yeah, Tag was a lot of fun. Next up was a Netflix original movie called Set It Up, which stars Glenn Powell and Zoe Deutsch. I don't actually know how to say her last name, but it's about these 2 office workers who have hardcore bosses that just work them to the ground, and they think it's a great idea if they were to set these 2 bosses up. And it's just an incredibly sweet film. It's nothing special, but it's like one of those feel-good films that you want to switch on when you're having a really, really rubbish day. I really like the chemistry between Glenn Powell and Zoe Deutsch. I think they were fantastic together, and Lucy Liu in this movie, she plays one of the bosses, and oh my god, she's just a badass. I love her. Next up, I want to talk about Hotel Artemis, which I was kind of anticipating because I love original stories with a neo flair. This film stars the likes of Jodie Foster, Jenny Slate, Dave Bautista, and it follows the day in the life of a hotel for criminals. The Hotel Artemis houses criminals, and we are set in the future, and LA is basically terrorized by riots and violence and everything, and it just tells the story of the nurse going her day-to-day life in the hotel when everything just turns to chaos. Now, Hotel Artemis has a really great concept. There are some really badass fight scenes. Sophia Boutella is in this movie, and oh my god, she's just such a freaking badass. So lots of great ideas, lots of great action sequences and shots, just didn't quite reach its full potential for me. I say that about a lot of films, and I feel like I should have a reason why I say that, but sometimes I just don't. The next movie I watched in July was a film I've actually seen 3 times now, and that was Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, which is obviously the sequel to Mamma Mia, which came out in 2008. Highly anticipating the sequel because I freaking love Mamma Mia. I loved the sequel even more. This one tells the story of a young Donna when she first meets Harry, Bill and Sam, and it sort of parallels between like Donna's life when she was young and Sophie's life now she's young and running this hotel, and I just freaking loved it. It's one of those feel-good films which I could watch endlessly forever, and the songs are just great, and Lily James just stole my heart. That's all I have to say really about Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. I shall probably watch it again when it comes out on Sing Along because inevitably it will. And the last movie I saw in July has to be one of my favourites of the summer, and that is Searching, which was just incredible. I think it has just got a release in the USA, like sort of countrywide, and I know it's out in the UK now, so if you haven't seen it, definitely go check Searching out. It follows this father, played by John Cho, whose daughter goes missing, and that may seem like a really generic concept, but it is all told through computer screens and phone screens and voicemails and FaceTime and emails, and it's just such an interesting concept to use that in a mystery film. The way they do it just makes it so much more intense and so much more interesting. It really shows how they sort of investigate into missing persons through their computer and through their emails and through their friends. It's a really interesting insight, and this film was just super intense. The acting was great, and I literally felt like I was watching some form of documentary, or like I was actually watching a missing persons case. Like, Searching really blew my mind, left me thinking. I'm still thinking about it now, so if you guys haven't checked it out, holy shit, please do. And that is it for July. Now, August is the month where I watched the most films. The first movie I watched in August was on UK Netflix, and that is Home Again, starring Reese Witherspoon. It is about this newly single mum who has just been separated from her husband, who moves back to Los Angeles to live in her famous father's house. He was a famous screenwriter, and about these three guys who are aiming to be screenwriters in Hollywood who stumble across her and move in with her, and it's sort of about them bonding and them bonding with her children, and it's a really nice film. Home Again was a really sweet film. It got a lot of hate, I think, when it first came out, because it's not exactly the best film ever made, but it's just a really feel-good film with a lot of, like, nice dialogue. You know, I'm a sucker for rom-coms, what can I say? I'm sorry. I can't even be sorry, because I just thought it was so sweet. The next one we watched is very different from Home Again, and that is Mission Impossible Fallout, which is the 6th film in the Mission Impossible series. I love Ghost Protocol, I loved Rogue Nation, and I, not surprisingly, loved Mission Impossible Fallout. If you know me, you know I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan, but he can convince me in a Mission Impossible film, just because the action sequences are so cool, the characters are great, the stories are always compelling, and usually I don't like action, but Mission Impossible turns me. Mission Impossible Fallout follows Ethan Hunt on another one of his missions, and he's joined by Henry Cavill's character, but it all goes downhill when they start accusing Ethan Hunt of being a double agent. Henry Cavill was great in this film, like that bathroom scene, holy crap, one of the best action sequences I've seen all year. As I said, the plot is extremely smart. I just love wrapping myself into Mission Impossible movies. They're just the best ones, let's be real. That and James Bond. Next up is the latest from Marvel, and that is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and this film takes place while Avengers Infinity War is going on, I believe. That is why Ant-Man was not in that movie. And Ant-Man follows Scott Lang as he tries to go back into the quantum realm to rescue Hope's mother and Hank's wife, but runs into complications when a villain named Ghost is after the technology he needs. It's a very simple plot, but Ant-Man is generally supposed to be fun. The film is obviously super funny, it's got some great action sequences, the whole shrinking and enlarging stuff. It just works, man. It's just cool to watch, okay? Moving on from that, the next film I saw was The Meg, which is basically Jason Statham versus a giant shark. Basically, The Meg follows a group of submarine divers who go down in search of a lower level of the lowest part of the ocean, and they find it, and in their tracks they end up getting stuck because they are attacked by this giant being that they don't know what it is, but it turns out to be this giant shark named the Megalodon, which is believed to be extinct for the last 20 million years or something silly like that. And the only one that can save them is, of course, Jason Statham. Now, The Meg is exactly what it says on the tin. You know exactly what you're in for. You are in to see some cool frickin' sharks. And you will see some cool frickin' sharks. So I can't really elaborate on how great and Oscar-worthy the film was, because it obviously wasn't. Nothing special, I just wanted to see some cool sharks, I think. Up next, I saw a film that was released earlier on this year, and that is Red Sparrow, starring Jennifer Lawrence. And now, I'd been interested in seeing this film, but never actually got round to it. This film was directed by Francis Lawrence, who directed 3 of the Hunger Games films, and obviously stars Jennifer Lawrence, and I think they have great working ethic together and working, you know, chemistry together. I'd heard mixed things about it, but I really just wanted to see some pretty costumes and some badass fight scenes, so that's what I went for, and that's what I got. Red Sparrow tells the story of an ex-ballerina who turns assassin when she gets involved in some dodgy stuff. We have Jennifer Lawrence as the main character, Dominica, who ends up falling for an American agent, and there's all of this sneaky stuff going on. Red Sparrow took some leaps far and beyond. It went where most thriller films wouldn't go, so I respect it for that. It was very grim, it was very gruesome, had some pretty costumes, and had some pretty badass fight scenes. And it's one of those films where at the end you're just like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. Very much enjoyed it as a film. Well, not enjoyed it, but I can appreciate it as a film. Taking a break from the films, I watched a TV show on Netflix called Dark Tourist, which I really enjoyed. It follows this New Zealander who is a journalist named David Farrier who goes around the world in search of dark tourist spots. Now, dark tourist spots are places where normal tourists wouldn't really want to go. So, for example, he went to America and did a Jeffrey Dahmer tour. He went to South Asia and went to a nuclear power plant that exploded site. He just goes to a lot of weird places just to investigate and see what happened there, and I found it really interesting. And David Farrier, the host, is very charismatic. You wouldn't expect to see him in a place like this. He's just such a nice, friendly guy that the whole tone of his presenting really clashes with the dark tourist spots, and I just think it really works. Some of it's actually kind of charming in a weird way. Next up is a film I was highly anticipating, and that is Christopher Robin. Now, this threw me right back into my childhood and gave me all the feels because I loved Winnie the Pooh as a kid, and this tells the story of a grown-up Christopher Robin who is one of those workaholic dads who doesn't get to spend much time with his family, and he actually doesn't go on a trip with his family to work and ends up getting sort of bombarded by Winnie the Pooh saying like, I've lost my friends, can you help me? And Winnie the Pooh will not take no for an answer. So Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin go in search of the rest of the gang, Tigger, Eeyore, Owl, Piglet, and it's just such a sweet movie, and it was a lot funnier than I expected because I'd seen the trailer for this film a million times and I thought, oh, these are going to be the only funny parts. But honestly, it was super funny. It was so enjoyable for adults, for kids. Just, I loved it. It made me feel happy inside, and it's going to be one of those films like I watch with my mum and feel really happy all the time. It's in the ranks with like Paddington and Paddington 2 as far as bear movies go. The next movie I watched was The Darkest Minds, which is based off a YA novel by Alexandra Bracken. I know a lot of people love this book, and I was very intrigued to see this movie. The Darkest Minds is a dystopian film which is based in the future where a disease has wiped out most of the population of children in the United States. The remaining children who have lived gain powers and are sorted into colour categories depending on how dangerous they are. So for example, greens are smart, blues control electricity, and the worst are oranges who can control people's minds. We follow our main character Ruby, who is played by Amandla Sternberg, who is an orange as she tries to fight her way to freedom. And she bumps into this group of other kids who are on the run, and they take a road trip together to find this paradise where they can all be free. Now, I was intrigued by The Darkest Minds because I used to love YA movies back in my teenhood. I love The Hunger Games and Divergent and all that rubbish, even though they're not really rubbish, but you know what I mean. But The Darkest Minds just didn't settle well with me. It was a bit late to the YA train for my liking, and for The Darkest Minds, it wasn't the darkest film. I feel like with a subject matter like this, you could be extremely dark and gritty, but there would be a scene where it'd be a fight scene and it'd be super dark and gritty, and then the next scene would be a happy pop song scene. It was just very strange tonally, and I didn't particularly enjoy it. I thought Amanda Sternberg was great, but other than that, it wasn't great. Next up we have The Spy Who Dumped Me, starring Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon, and this woman gets dumped by her boyfriend who turns out to be an international spy, and he entrusts her to take this valuable bit of government information to Europe with her. And that's the basic plot of this film. It's not a masterpiece. Did I laugh at some points? Yes, I did. I thought Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon had great on-screen chemistry with each other. I really like them as a duo. It's one of those really, really cheesy comedies where some parts are funny, but overall it's just a one-watch kind of film and you really don't have to see it in the cinema. I'd probably stick it on Netflix if I were you. Next up is To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which is a Netflix original movie. I was super excited for this one. Haven't read the book, but I was just super excited because I know the concept. It's about this teenager named Lara Jean who writes love letters to every boy she has loved. And when all those love letters get sent out, it's a bit of a sticky situation. And she makes the popular boy who she wrote a letter to pretend to be in a relationship with her to stop one of the other boys from wanting to be with her. It's a very awkward situation. You have to watch the movie to understand. To All the Boys I've Loved Before is one of those films that I would absolutely just be a sucker for from the get-go. And lo and behold, I was. I thought this film was just adorable. I thought the chemistry between the actress that plays Lara Jean and the actor who plays Peter Kavinsky was just magic. It just made me feel warm and fuzzy inside. It's one of those rom-coms that I would just stick on a bad day. I just really, really loved it. Like, guilty as charged. We have finally made it to the last film I watched in summer of 2018. I finally got around to watching the 2018 Tomb Raider, which stars Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft, who is the daughter of an adventurer, and when she finds out about her father's adventures, she decides she needs to go out and find him. Tomb Raider to me was a bog standard video game turned action movie. It isn't anything special, sadly. I think Alicia Vikander is a badass, do not get me wrong. Some of the action scenes were actually pretty cool in this. But the plot overall really didn't keep me entertained or enhanced in the story. I just really wasn't into it. I couldn't really attach myself to any of the characters. And sometimes it felt kind of too much like a video game, like the way they shot it was very like first person angle sort of thing, and it was kind of distracting, to be honest. I don't know whether they'll make another one. I kind of hope they do to see if they can improve on it, but yeah, I'm kind of ending this video on a kind of sour note because Tomb Raider kind of disappointed me. There we go, that is everything I watched in the summer of 2018. I will actually get back to doing these videos monthly because that was far too much to talk about in one video. I feel like I've forgotten how to YouTube. How do you YouTube? Anyway guys, thank you for sticking with me. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've seen any of the movies I watched down below and what were your favourites. I will definitely be back with more videos very, very soon because it is coming up to autumn movie season, aka the best season of the year of 4 movies. I cannot wait. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you very soon. Bye!